Hello there guys and girls, welcome back to the Automation AI Car Generator Championships. Today we're going to be summarising and scoring our 1966 split of Gasmea cars. So let's get straight into it. So first up we had the Nexus, which is our muscle premium car, which came out really rather nice. I thought that the style was great and also the setup was awesome. Plenty of power, very nice handling considering the size, 5.72 metres long overall with a 3.33 metre wheelbase. Yes, on the highway it felt brilliant. It was able to weave through traffic and do everything you wouldn't expect it to be able to do. So yes, I did enjoy this one very much. So scoring, I'll give it a 7 for speed, a 7 also for handling, and an 8 for drivability, since the whole package works so well together. So that gives it an overall score of 7.3. Okay, next up we had the Elk, which is our fun car, little hatchback. And this thing was not quite as nice as our fun premium car from the previous decade, the Heartwood, but this thing was okay. It was definitely a cheaper kind of feel than the Heartwood was, but it also would have probably made sense since it was probably cheaper to buy in the fictional world that we're making. So not too bad. I wouldn't recommend it for a race though. Okay, for scoring then, I give it a 5 for speed, a 6 for handling, and a 7 for drivability, because it did work quite well together. That gives it an overall score of 6. Okay, so next up we had the Synergy, which is our convertible sport budget car. Now this thing was exciting to begin with until I realised that it has basically the power of a lawnmower. However, the handling was extremely fun and was probably quite closely related in cars to perhaps an MX-5 or an MR2, so not something you're going to get wheel spin in, but something you can definitely have fun with in the corners. It was convertible because it was a Targa top, so I suppose that's acceptable. Okay, so for scoring then, I gave it a 4 for speed because it was really quite slow. It did get there eventually, but still wouldn't get over 100 miles an hour. But for handling, it gets an 8 because it literally you can't make it wheel spin or slide out. It's fantastic. And for drivability, it gets a 6 because the power does hold it back. It could easily handle more power with that suspension setup, etc. That leaves it with an overall score of 6. Okay, moving on then to the Mantle, our sports budget car. This thing seemed quite promising in automation, and then I drove it. Unfortunately, although it does have a fairly, although cheap powerhouse, a fairly powerful one in the form of a straight 6 3.2 litre. However, this thing was not good on handling and the rear suspension felt very unpredictable. So that kind of lets down the scores a bit. So for scoring then, it'll get a 6 for speed because it wasn't all that bad, but it'll only get a 4 for handling and a 5 for drivability. So overall, it gets a 5. Okay, so next up was the Entry, our fun premium car for 66. This was pretty decent fun, lots of agility, that's for sure. Didn't have a lot of power, but it had enough. But it certainly was fun on the tighter turns. It really was agile and turned in very nicely on the front end. So for speed, it will get a 5. For handling, a 7. And drivability, also a 7. And that leaves it with an overall score of 6.3. Okay, so the final entry then, the Bark, our muscle car for 66. This was very good fun to drive. Did not have a lot of power for a muscle car. It definitely seemed like it could do with at least 50 or 100 more horsepower really to be a muscle car, but it did score very well in that market. And yes, it was great fun to drive, which is a bit unusual. You'd expect a muscle car to be tail happy and not very good in the corners. However, this was very nice to cruise, very nice to pound down the highway as well. So for speed, it will get a 6, handling a 7, and also drivability a 7, leaving it with an overall score of 6.6. So that's the scoring done for our 66 category at Gasmea cars. Next up, we'll be generating our entries for 1976, so be sure to catch us in that episode. See you later guys and girls, bye bye.